So it's about time I checked out another mini PC. This is the Voyo V1. Now it's powered by the new Apollo Lake 14 nanometer chip, which is the Pentium N4200. Now that is actually just the successor really to the Atom series, but Intel decided to drop the Atom name because that affected sales, and a lot of people thought Atom, poor performance, okay. So they got rid of that, so now that's labeled as a Pentium. There's another version as well, which is called the Sauron. So this chip here is actually going to be in tablets too. So it has a maximum turbo of 2.4 gigahertz, and the configuration of this mini PC is with 4 gigabytes of RAM, 32 gigabyte eMMC, and 128 gigabyte SSD. So I got this from gearbest.com, and via DHL. I had to pay almost 30 euros taxes on this because they declared the value as 50 US. I mean, they stop everything. If you don't want to pay the taxes, make sure you select the free postage method. So it's not particularly well wrapped up. Normally they double box these things, so I don't know what happened here. Maybe they're cutting down on the shipping cost. So hopefully it hasn't been damaged. So there we go, you can see a really small unit. Now this is fan cooled. Now the same CPU that's in this will also be used in tablets. So it'll be interesting to see how the tablets fare with this, because this has got a fan, hopefully. I'm having trouble getting it out. So you can see it's in the blue color. So we have at the bottom 4 rubber feet. There's a vent here, that would be the intake, I would say, for the fan. And then the exit maybe just along the top here. 3 USB 3 ports there, mini HDMI out, 3.5mm audio out, and then of course a micro SD card. Now this does have wireless AC, so 5 GHz band, which is really good, and a gigabit Ethernet port, DC in of course there for the power, Voyo along the top, power button, and there will be a status LED there. The build of it, that feels really nice, actually really solid, very solid. What else we have in here? So they've actually included a HDMI cable for us, which is really good, because not everyone's going to have a mini one. And then of course the power supply, which is an EU one. It's rated to 12 volts, 3 amps. Now other things that were included in the box was this right here. This is just a quick start guide. Now there is actually a USB dongle in here, in the box. And I almost missed. So a tiny little one there. That is our wireless, and if you read right here that it says that the product does not have built-in wireless module. Now I assumed that it did, and this in fact says on the back of it, wireless in, so that's not even dual band, so the listing on GearBest is wrong there. So it's just 4 screws on the bottom, undo those, and then this whole back should come straight off. Okay, we can see there's the backup battery there for the BIOS, and it looks like we have a bracket here to insert a 2.5-inch hard drive if you want, which is really good option there, but I don't see any cables there to actually connect that. Well, there it says right here, SATA connection, but that's not included in the box, which is a real shame. I don't know why they haven't done that. So I've removed all of the screws on there now. The bracket for the 2.5-inch drive, of course, that's all gone, so now we should be able to get this off. Flip that up and have a look at the top of it. So there we can see they've actually got a really nice heat spreader on this thing. Look at that. Made out of metal there. That is really thick. So that should work quite well. And then a tiny little fan there. So it's drawing air in through and then blowing it out that back vent there. And there's the single RAM chips there. So only single channel RAM, unfortunately, on this. I didn't imagine they would have space to put 2 in there. And there is a 4C 128 gigabyte SSD drive. So upgradability is possible. You can replace this drive, of course, with a larger one. I've got a 256 gigabyte one here, and the RAM stick could be replaced with an 8 gigabyte one. So it powered up relatively quick. I did hear the fan come on, but it turned off straight away, so that's good. So it's just going to have a fan that's going to passively cool it at times, not even coming on when needed, and then it will actively come on when it heats up, obviously there. So the first languages here that we can use for the initial setup, we've got English, Russian, and Chinese. So the initial first setup, that took a while, I would say about a minute or 2 minutes actually, a little bit long there. So let's have a look and see what we have configured the drive as, because I do believe the eMMC is going to be the Windows drive, but actually no, there we go. C drive, the SSD, is set up as Windows. That is really good. So maybe the eMMC is the recovery drive. Actually, no, look, they've just put all the drivers on the eMMC there. So interesting way they've done it, but I do believe that is best. That's going to give us the maximum performance. So I now have a look and see what is under the device manager and system, what I usually do. So Windows 10 Home comes in. Windows activated, I've just actually connected up the Ethernet port there, so that's activated, no problems. And device manager, so there's the 4C disk drive. I plugged in an external 1TB drive, and that has been detected, powering just fine, so no problems with that. Now network adapters, it's a Realtek gigabit Ethernet controller, which is good. And as mentioned, that wireless dongle that I showed you before, that's only wireless in, so a bit of false advertising going on. They said it had wireless AC, and I was led to believe that it was actually internally, so not really good. So installed RAM 4 GB, which is upgradable, and you can see it's the N4200. Now that does have a maximum turbo of 2.5 GHz. So currently there's a Windows update going on in the background, and I can hear the fan, it's ramping up. It's a little annoying because sometimes it's quiet, then suddenly you can just hear this buzz noise coming from the machine there. So have a look and see also what the RAM speed's running at. It's done in the memory tab here. So we've got only one slot used as shown, and the speed is 1600 megahertz, which is good. So I just wanted to point out a few things here. I've run Geekbench 4 here, and the scores I think are actually okay. That's not quite a Core M performance on single core score there at least. Core M's get I think around 1800. So it's a little bit slower than that, but the multi-core score I think is quite respectable considering the type of chipset it is that it has on here. Now I did also test out the C drive, which is that 4C 128GB SSD. Those are the speeds there, so not particularly fast writes. They're a little slow there. But I mean, the 4K write randoms, they're fine. So temperatures got up to 78 degrees. The fan is loud, as mentioned before, that when it ramps right up, you can definitely hear it. It vibrates away in there. A little annoying. And one other thing too that's interesting, as the Intel 505 graphics, Intel HD 505, it detects it and puts it into battery saving modes. Now, of course, there's no battery on this, but this is a chipset that will be used in tablets. So I think that's why it's auto-detected this. So it's wise to just disable all of this if you want maximum 3D gaming performance, which is what I'm going to do. So that's the unboxing there. My first impressions overall, I like the build quality of it. Now, one thing I don't like is the fact that they did not include internal wireless AC. I was led to believe that it would have like a mini PCI card in there, so it would have the dual band 5 GHz wireless AC they advertise on GearBest, but instead they just throw in a dongle and it's only wireless in, so you have to give up one of those USB 3 ports for that if you want to use wireless. Now, if you're going to use just the Ethernet port, then that's not a problem for you. Good to see that it powers external hard drives. It has to do that, of course, but some systems fail at that simple little test. So we can upgrade the SSD, we can upgrade the RAM too. And the other thing is that the performance of it, I will go over thoroughly. So I'll check out other benchmarks as well. 3D Mark, Cinebench, and possibly PC Mark and some others there just to see how well this is going to perform. But it's looking all right. It's a step down slightly from the Core M's. So the Core M 5Y10, for example, or the 6Y30, slower than those. But I think it could offer hopefully adequate performance when it comes to just a little general media PC, or if you want to do light office tasks and things like that. So far, it's looking good for that. Now, I will also check the thermals when gaming to see if it's going to have any thermal throttling. If it doesn't thermal throttling, then that's going to be great. But that fan is a con because it's quiet most of the time when you're doing light tasks. Just looking at the internet, it doesn't seem to come on. But now and then it will suddenly just ramp up. You hear this buzzing noise, and seconds later it will disappear as soon as you stop taxing the CPU on there. So that's a slight annoyance. I like fanless PCs, and this isn't, of course, but if it stops the throttling, then it's going to be worth it in the end. So we'll be back with a full review on that. If you are interested, keep an eye on the playlist. and thank you so much for watching this video.